Hey guys, welcome back. It's time for our final chapter on human anatomy, constructing the head. But before we start, how about you set a baseline for yourself? Try drawing a head from the front, from the side, and from an angle to the best of your ability. See where you struggle and take note. Having those first heads to improve upon should be encouraging as you keep practicing heads in the future and you keep improving. And hopefully by the end of this very chapter you'll already have some tools to redraw them and make them instantly better. Our approach to the head will be very similar to what we did with the hands and the human figure. We'll draw like sculptors by thinking about planes rather than lines. We'll simplify the head to basic geometric forms and use it as our foundation to place the facial features on top of it, which will also be constructed from basic forms. Many of you may be familiar with the Loomis method for drawing the head, and that's the method I personally learned. There are many other methods for drawing the head, from which I've integrated some knowledge into my way of doing things, such as Riley's method, George Bridgman's method, some things I've picked up from Michael Hampton, and other stuff I've learned by studying the head and studying the skull. So what I'll teach you today will be mostly derived from Loomis and a few other things. If you're not familiar with Andrew Loomis by this point, today you'll learn his method. So, throughout this chapter I'll show you a real head which we'll use to study, a skull which I'll use to point some landmarks, and this very useful tool I love called the Asaro head. The Asaro head is a simplified head sculpt designed by John Asaro, and it's sort of like a low poly head that helps you see the planes of the head. There are a few variations on the Asaro head, but I like this original one because it divides the head in two halves. You have a very low poly version that shows the big general planes and almost looks like a Loomis head, and this other more detailed half where you can see better definition of the planes of each feature. By now you already know that the best way to study complex subjects is by simplifying them into their basic forms and planes, and when you have to shade a head in a specific angle, this Asaro head comes in very handy. I'll link you to two ArtStation posts. The first one is this one where you can move around a 3D model of the planes of the head and change the position of the light source however you want. And the second one lets you download a free Asaro head model, which you can then open on Blender or print it in 3D like I did. Okay, so to start, we'll see the head from the front and side in order to learn its standard proportions. This will be, of course, generalized or idealized proportions from the Loomis method for a male model, but think of it as an average that you can then play with or bend to your liking, changing some of these proportions to give you completely different faces for different characters of different ages, different genders, different ethnicities, or to give off a different personality. This part about standardized proportions is honestly the boring part, but it'll be useful when we're constructing the head from other angles. Let's start by drawing a circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but try your best to sort of ghost your lines and don't worry about if you have to go over it a few times. After all, this is just a guideline. On the human head, this corresponds to the sphere of the cranial mass, but you'll already notice something. on real heads and skulls, the cranial mass isn't a perfect sphere. Its sides are actually quite flat. This is better seen from above. Watch how its sides are flat and at an angle, which also shows that the front of the head is narrower than the back of the head. We'll apply this onto our own circle. So here's the secret of the Loomis method. First, I'll divide this circle into 4 sections, and now I'll cut its sides. Our vertical line is the middle line of the face, and our horizontal line is the brow line. I'll also fix it a little bit with the symmetry tool. And that's a much cleaner circle. So, to better visualize it, what I'm doing is basically taking a sphere and cutting its sides like this, which if you were to trace guidelines on each axis of the sphere would leave out this very flat plane on each side of the sphere. As for how big this circular cut should be, it should be about 2/3 of the bigger circle. I'm also going to be showing it from the side. Now we'll trace a straight horizontal line from the top of this circle, which will be our hairline, and another from the bottom of the circle, which will be our nose line. We already had our brow line in the middle, so the last line we need to find is the chin line. To find it, you need to go down this exact same distance, which is the same from hairline to brow line and brow line to nose line, and just repeat it once more to find the chin line. See? And now we have 4 lines that divide the face in 3 main areas. Now that we have our main divisions, we can keep dividing to find each feature. Divide each half vertically to have 4 sections, and divide this again to find the corners of each eye. Vertically, the center of the eye should be about 1/3 of the way down from the brow bone to the nose. You should be able to fit one eye between both of them. And since the nose is also as wide as a single eye, we can start fitting in our features like puzzle pieces. For now, I'll gloss over how to construct these features, but we'll talk about each one when we properly construct the head. In a similar way, from the bottom of the nose, you can divide this section in 3 to find the division of the lips and the crease of the chin. We'll do the same in profile, and pay close attention to how these angles go up and down as we go down the face profile. You can clearly see this in the Asaro head. As you can see, there's a very clear definition of the planes, and this plane looks up at the light, this plane looks down, up again, and down, and up again, and down again. I'll draw the brow bone and ears, but we're about to see them in more detail when we construct the head at an angle. So as you can see, the ear from top to bottom has the same height as the distance between the brow line and the nose line. I will also stretch this side view a little bit because the head is actually way deeper than it is wide, as it's made obvious by looking at the skull from the front compared to the side. I will also polish this drawing a little bit. So once again, to recap, we've got this circular cut on the side of the head from which we extend our hairline and our nose line. The middle of the circle is the brow line, and if we divide this head vertically in 4 sections, we can find the middle of the eyes and the corners of each eye by dividing it in half again, which will also let us find the wings of the nose. Finally, from the bottom of the nose, 1/3 of the way down, we'll find the separation of the lips. Another third of the way down, we will find the crease of the chin. And if you took this distance from hairline to brow line or brow line to nose line, by repeating that distance, you will find the bottom of the chin. And the ear from top to bottom is the same distance between the brow line and the nose line.